Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Jason and the Gentleman. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, the Gentleman of Mixed Martial Arts, and now the Woodsman of Mixed Martial Arts, the Camper of Mixed Martial Arts, the Gentleman Josh Hill. Josh, very scenic background. Feel like we're on the Outdoor Life Network or something.
It looks like I'm way more like up north than I actually am, but I'm only about 30 minutes from my house, and it's more like glamping. I'm at a nice little cottage here, but yeah, it's just a little getaway for the week, something different, change of scenery.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice, man. Hopefully the Wi-Fi holds up here.
Well, so far, so good. So it is holding up. Maybe it will hold up because it is getting, I guess, late and whatever, and people maybe are not out there or whatnot. But whatever it may be, it looks nice, and I'm glad you're gonna take the time and enjoy it, and hopefully enjoy the nice weather and the reopening that is starting to happen in Ontario.
Yeah. So what is the reopening? Because I don't watch the like regular news anymore. So is it just patios are open? Can you go in restaurants yet inside?
Can't go inside just yet, though. I feel within like 3 weeks or so that'll be a thing. But
Okay.
they've announced, I guess, that sports are starting to roll out. Like they're starting to accelerate the return of sports leagues in Canada coming back. Like we know the CFL's back
Yeah.
in Canada, but as well in Ontario with some other sport leagues. So we're starting to see a lot of light at the end of the tunnel right now with this COVID train.
Good. That's so long overdue, but I'm glad it's finally starting.
Yeah, it gets me excited knowing that all these sports leagues are coming back, and just people are coming out, and plus with the turn of last week, it's like with the nice weather out, people are a little bit more happy and enjoying themselves right now. So it's a lot nicer than the doom and gloom we saw last year.
Yeah, man. This is, where we live, it's like, January, February, March is tough times for a lot of people just because it's cold, it's dark, it's, you know what I mean? There's nothing really to do not as much to do. So yeah, you add COVID on top of all that, it's not good for majority of people, right? So everything's better when it's nicer out, man. And that's why I always ask myself, why do I still live in Ontario? Why am I still here? Um, there's a lot of good things here, but yeah, I wish I lived in a nicer climate all year round, man. The older I get, the more I want to just be in the sun.
You definitely got to experience that nicer climate when you're out there in Cali before your
Yeah.
fight. So you know what that kind of lifestyle is like. Plus, going out to BC a couple weeks ago for PTC with us, like that
Mhm.
West Coast lifestyle. That'll change your perspective on a lot of things as well.
You know what? I've had a lot of family and friends that go out to BC, and most of them don't come back, man. Or they come back for a bit, but they end up going back out there just because, there's something about it, and they just, like the much more relaxed, more mellow, more peaceful, more chilled lifestyle than the more of the rat race in the eastern side over here.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have some friends as well that have moved out west. I mean, maybe Saskatchewan, not as pretty to look at,
Yeah.
but still, it's that lifestyle out there where everyone's much more chill and enjoying their time. But yeah, it's getting me excited about a lot of things. And so from last week, let's just get into it. There was a busy week in mixed martial arts, headlined and they capped off with UFC 263. Headlined by Isreal Adasanya taking on Marvin Vettori. Josh, you picked Marvin Vettori to get the W. He had a moment or two in there, but Isreal Adasanya showed that he's the best middleweight on earth.
Yeah, I pick. I've only, to be honest, like we talked about, I think I've only ever seen Vettori fight one time. Yeah, I've just seen glimpses of his fights and stuff like that, but I don't know. I don't know even why I picked him. I just thought maybe he could out wrestle. Maybe he could utilize that. But and in the first round, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe he will. He got the takedown early, and I'm like, we'll see if he can continue this. But he didn't really make any adjustments. He just kind of kept doing the same thing. And Adesanya, once he kind of found his distance and his timing a little better, and knew that he could stand back up, he started just to take control, and it was pretty pretty. It wasn't like an absolute beating, but it was just you know, he controlled the fight for sure. And you know, just easily kept his belt. Yeah, yeah, I picked it wrong.
You know, I mean, it happens, obviously, but you know, sometimes when you get the feeling on a fighter, you buy
Yeah.
into it a little bit, and it just wasn't really Vittori's night. Like he didn't adjust his stances, kept getting the leg kicks and just
Didn't
eating them.
at first, though, or like I mean, he started to check a little few, but like he let the damage kind of happen already. I mean, he's a tough guy. Like he kept, you know, he didn't really switch stances much, and he kept going the whole fight. So power to him. But yeah, he let his leg get beat up that first 2 rounds. It just, you know, gotta check those things, man.
Yeah, you definitely need to learn to check the kicks. And he had, like I said, he had that moment where he got the takedown, took Adesanya's back, and tried to sink in that rear naked choke. But once Adesanya was able to spin out of it and just get into half guard there, it was kind of over, and you kind of see the air come out of the balloon of Vittori's hopes. So, you know, Vettori though, he felt like he won the fight. I know that's, I guess, a thing with fighters. You know, you feel you won the fight, but
You know what, man? Just speaking from experience, like when you're in there, you're not looking from the outside in, right? So when you feel things, and I've had fights where like I felt like I did something really cool in there, and then I watch it, I'm like, that was shit. You know what I mean? Or vice versa. I'm like, oh, I look like shit, but then I watch it, and it doesn't look that bad. You know what I mean? So it's hard to tell when you're in there. Sometimes you just feel, you know, better than it actually looks, right? So, you know, I don't blame them for that. And you know, why go to the judges with your head down? And, you know, just try and act like you won. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh, for sure. Act like you won. I mean, even though he may have thought, hey, I won the fight, at least he's kind of to the reality, like knowing I'm not going to get a rematch, and is already calling out like Paulo Costa, which is fine.
Yeah.
That makes sense for Vettori if he's able to get it against Costa.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough fight for sure. I guess like who, if he beats Costa, then what though? You know what I mean? He's not going to get another shot at Adesanya. You know, he's lost twice to him. Um, Definitely not right away. You know, it would take a while. So, I mean, that would be a big name for him to beat. But then what? You know, who's bigger than that, other than like Whitaker? That who's going to fight for the title? So, um, I mean, kudos to him for calling out one of the biggest fights in the division. But like I said, a win over him, then where does that leave him?
I think really it's just where is that division? Because we know now probably Robert Whitaker has to get the next title shot. I mean, Adesanya himself called for it post fight, even saying like, "Come to fight me in New Zealand because I fought you in Australia." So I mean, obviously, it depends on them opening up because they in Australia and out in the Oceanic they have really strict COVID restrictions. But like, where is that division after? Like, say Adesanya wins, like there's really no one that you can viably see beating Adesanya.
No, I mean that division's, man, like with the exception of that top like five, you know, four, and who he's already beat them all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it kind of just drops off, you know, really, to be honest. Um, I mean, you got Gastelum out there, but he lost to Whitaker recently, and he had a great fight with Adesanya,
Yeah.
but coming off a loss, he beat Paulo Costa. He just beat Vettori, that Hermanson guy, but you know what I mean? Like it's just I can't even really think of a top contender that could fill in that spot right now, other than Whitaker.
Yeah, like the way I'm seeing it is like obviously that's the fight to make. Whether it happens in New Zealand or not is one thing. I still think they will have the fight by October, November, around that point. And
Right.
say Adesanya wins, like Adesanya can like chill pretty much for the rest of for a majority of 2022. Let that division build up. You're not going to probably go back up a weight class because that didn't work out for you. Or unless maybe he wants to go back and do things a little bit differently because he lost. I don't know, but I just don't see a need for him to need to fight at 185. Like, get some contenders built up or something.
Yeah, I mean, but sure, but you know, he wants to be active while he can. You know what I mean? You're only young so long, and you want to make money. You know what I mean? So, if I'm him, I'm just saying, bring on who's next, and I'll just keep knocking him down. You know, much like Demetrius Johnson did. You know what I mean? Just keep winning, man, and literally it'll just build your legacy. But yeah, I mean, there'll be lack of excitement, for fights because he's beat all these guys already, and lack of huge contenders coming up and making it exciting. But yeah, I mean, he's doing his job. He's you're putting guys in front of him and he's beating them up. So
I
just
think he's
continue.
been very active as like
Yeah,
you're talking about. Obviously, you want to be active, but he's been one of
he's
the
been
more
active.
active guys in the
Yeah,
UFC. Like he fought on the March pay per view in 2020 before COVID, fought on Fight Island, fought Jan in February this year. Now fights Vettori and probably another time before the end of 2021. So he's being active. He's getting his money. He's got some sensational sponsorships as well that can fill that cash flow if he doesn't want to fight. Obviously, that's your main cash flow, but you're getting a sponsorship deal or had one with Mercedes-Benz. Maybe you can get that back. I don't know, but I got to deal with Puma. So he's making some good money. So I could see him maybe wanting to. I don't know what else to do. I think that they need to try to find a way, the UFC, to build some contenders up because
yeah.
we're getting to that point where once you start cleaning out the division, there's just too many questions and no one wants that, right? You want to know who can fight where and X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, we'll see what. Again, that's up to the UFC, right? They're the
Yeah.
promoters. The other ones got to promote, build up stars, and make people want to watch them. So, yeah, that's up to them. That's not up to him.
Yeah, well, for sure it isn't, and maybe with some of the Contender Series guys, I know they're doing a big international season with the Contender Series, so we will see, and hopefully we can get like a Chimaev back healthy because
Yeah,
that was another guy they were building up, but obviously COVID rocked him really hard. So that's another name down the line, but I still think a fight or two away, even if he were to come back healthy today against Adesanya. But Josh, the co-main event was one of the better stories I've seen in quite a while. Brandon Moreno went out there and thoroughly wrecked shop against Davison Figueiredo, a guy that I thought would, he's had weight issues in the past and was like one of the last person to make weight for that pay-per-view, weighed in with 40 seconds and made the 125 limit. But just Figueiredo wasn't there, but Moreno was on. He was crisp, getting the takedowns. His striking was good. Knocked down Figueiredo and then choked him out early in the third round and becomes the first ever Mexican champion in the UFC.
yeah, man. Great story. Great for him. Yeah, Figueiredo. You could tell he wasn't the same fighter that we've seen the last 3 or 4 fights with him. Definitely, he cuts a lot of weight. I remember I came to Alpha Male one time and he was there. This was a couple years ago, and I didn't get to train with him because he was I think it was his last day of his camp, but he was already like sucked out. He cuts a lot of weight. So yeah, he did say he has weight issues and whatnot. He's missed weight many times, so maybe the cut did have a factor on him because he didn't look the same. But don't take any away from Moreno because that guy, he's tough, durable kid, but not just tough, but like good. Technically good. His takedowns look great, striking look great, and then to get the finish and that guy's got a crazy story, man. Like just to be kind of written off, cut from the UFC, and then brought back, or yeah, on the Ultimate Fighter, and then last pick,
Yeah.
and then to come back and now be the UFC Flyweight champ. But that's pretty cool, man. Good for him.
Yeah, a crazy story. Like parents are, pinata makers in Tijuana. You're the last pick on Tough. You have a pretty good run. Like he went 4-2 his last run. Then they cut him. Had to win a fight to get back into the UFC. Always made the promise he'd be champion, and then he fulfills the promise here and is now, the champion. And it's just one of those stories that makes you fall in love with the sport because there's a lot of, hoopla and whatnot, and sometimes, but this is just a genuine guy that fought his ass off and looked the best we've ever seen him look.
Yeah, man, this last year it's been like the underdog story
Yeah.
in MMA, which is cool. I like it. He's seen Juan Butkovich, win a title, and I don't think anybody ever thought he'd be the UFC champ. Oliveira, what I mean, he's had his ups and downs for the UFC for like a decade, and then finally, put it together. Now he's a champ, and then same thing with Moreno now. So it's pretty cool, man. It's just to see these guys actually go through literally the journey and the grind, and they didn't just rise up and get into the UFC and have 5 fights and be undefeated and win a title. They been there, done that, ups, downs, wins and losses, and now finally fulfilled their, the ultimate goal. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I couldn't be more happy for Moreno. I mean, the guy that does, Spanish broadcasting. And now you want to talk about a way to just explode the scene in Mexico, which is already really, getting solid. There's some promotions out there, but you've got a champion from Mexico that they can actually see and emulate and whatever. I mean, he won the title, and by Sunday they had a mural up for him in Tijuana. I mean, that just shows he's already, captured the imaginations of the Mexican MMA fans.
Yeah, well, the Mexican fan base, their boxing fan base has always been like that, right? They're huge with that. And with MMA, there hasn't really been, there's like a couple guys like Kane, but he's, American, Mexican based, Mexican roots, Yar Rodriguez, like guys like that. But there hasn't been somebody that's actually right from there that has gone on to win, a world title like this, right? And MMA.
Yeah. And I mean, they tried to build up that market before. They've done some shows in Mexico. As you said, Kane, I mean, was a heavyweight champion, but he was like a Yuma, Arizona, where he was born. So he's an American, even though he could, not that far from the Mexican border. But and the Mexican fans they attach on it. But you're totally right. It's the boxing fan base that they're now starting to generate and turn over, which is what UFC's always been about. And now they got a guy that can mix it up with anyone at a division that I can't believe we were talking about just 2 years ago, getting rid of Josh. And it's produced some of the best fights and best moments in the UFC in the last 2 years.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've always, I said, I hate people that talk about getting rid of it. It's crazy, man. Like, I mean, obviously I'm biased because I'm, I love the lighter weight classes, but yeah, I love watching, man. Like the most exciting fights in my mind are like the 55s and downs to me personally. There's some obviously great fights in the heavier weights too, but I just love the action. I love the speed. I love the technique. The cardio, and the 25ers always bring it. I think it was Demetrius was so good, and such a nice guy. And didn't have a fan base like a Moreno, I'm a first Mexican champ, right? He's, American guy. So I think, they couldn't do a whole lot with him because he was, there was no, I guess, real marketing behind him that much, or at least they didn't put as much as they could have into him. So, and I think that just kind of dragged that division down because there was lack of excitement because of such a dominant champ. And then with Figueiredo came around, it kind of sparked him some things again. And now with Moreno, it can do the same. So I don't think it's going anywhere.
I don't either, and I think it's kind of great to have Moreno as champion, not for like the Mexican fan base alone, which is obviously a huge benefactor, getting a new culture into the sport, which has always been the UFC's goal. But like he's just a down to earth, normal guy. Like he's a nerd at home, like at heart. He plays with Legos. He's into Funko Pops. Like him and Isreal Adasanya had a conversation, I guess, in the hotel about Funko Pops, these toys that you just collect and never take out. Like I don't get it, but there's so much of this nerd culture that's really taken over. Like it's cool to be a nerd, other than like, unlike 20 plus years ago where that was never something you'd want to admit, but that's now taken over. And I think he'll identify with a lot of people right now.
Yeah. The whole nerd thing. I mean, yeah, back 20, 25 years ago, that was the nerd thing. You get beat up for that kind of shit, right? Yeah. But like now it's different, man. I mean, look at Marvel now. Like reading comic books and watching superhero movies back then was like a nerdy thing to do, really. But now like it's everybody loves it. It's huge. I mean, I'm a huge horror fan. Like I love that kind of shit. Like I kind of nerd out with that stuff. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's just kind of how today's day and age. But it is cool to see somebody like that, doing those kind of things, and he's only 27 or 8, and he's got like 3 daughters too. I didn't know that, which is pretty crazy. I mean, that's pretty cool too, to be a dad, especially that young, to have three daughters. Yeah, good on him, man.
Yeah, now he can make those big paychecks and really start planning their lives right now, which is good for him. But yeah, nerd culture. Who would have thought? And like two guys that fought in the co-main and main are huge, like avid nerds. So nerd culture also with guys that can literally kick your ass. So it's really changed from a lot as it's been. But the other big fight on the card, Josh, was Nate Diaz. He returned for the first time since 2019. Took on Leon Edwards, and I know you were talking, and pretty much it went kind of how you thought that. Thought, Leon would be a little bit too much for Nate, and he was for the majority, but that last 60 seconds, if Nate Diaz had finished that fight, that would have been, to me, probably the greatest comeback in the sport, and it's now kind of what everyone's talking about. It's like Nate found a way to get the conversation back on him instead of Leon, who's now on this huge win streak and could be, down the line, next in line for the title shot.
Yeah, I feel bad for Edwards, man. Because
Yeah.
this guy he's on a 10-fight win streak. He's so good. Like, he's very talented, man. He's had a whole bunch of shit go wrong, like fights falling through, COVID bullshit, and then the IPO, like, what I mean? And then he comes out and puts on a masterclass performance, literally beats the shit out of Nate for 4.5 rounds, you know what I mean, or more. And then he gets tagged with one left hand right to the chin and gets wobbled, and hurt definitely, and then survives. And then the talk is more so about Nate, just win, lose or draw. He's got his fans, right? So, but it was great to see. I mean, I'm a huge Diaz fan too. So I enjoyed watching him fight there. I think he looked good. Not really, to be honest. Edwards, I think, like I said, beat him everywhere the whole fight, except for that one shot that tagged him. But you gotta love the Diaz's. They don't stop. If there was no rounds and it just kept going, the Diaz's would probably be the champs. You know what I mean? Because they run out of time. But yeah, it was fun to watch. It was exciting. I knew he'd get bloodied up because he always does every single fight. But yeah, Edwards, it probably his biggest win, as far as namesake, right? But it still probably won't get him a title shot.
No, I mean, they're already saying it's going to be Colby Usman 2, whenever that is. I don't think they have a date or anything yet set for that. But yeah, it's like you can go out there, look amazing against Nate Diaz, but everyone's going to remember that fight, the last 60 seconds of it. And I think as well, what I've learned from this week, even though I kind of knew it already, Nate Diaz is the second biggest star in this sport behind Conor McGregor. Everywhere that guy went, shown on screen, at the media, like, he was just treated like a mixed martial arts god, like smoking his weed at the press conference, at the post-fight stuff. Like, he is so beloved, and it's great to have a figure like that where Nate now could probably lose 5 fights in a row, even get finished in some of them, and no one would care. They just want to see him still fight. And we kind of need that in this sport because there's too much worried sometimes, I find, where's this guy going to go, whatnot? And we try to avoid the boxing route, like one loss and you're done. It's kind of coming that way in MMA. But with Nate, it's like that guy can lose 10 times in a row and everyone will still want to see him fight.
Yeah, that is good. You're right. The MMA fans, are very like, you win, they love you. You lose, you should retire. You know what I mean? Like, you're done. He's probably done. That's how they are. And to see somebody like a Diaz, who, I mean, look at his record. I mean, he's fought the who's who. Don't get me wrong. He's fought all killers. But yeah, I think I don't even know what his record is, but there's lots of losses. You know what I mean?
I think there's 14 now.
14? Yeah, that's a lot of losses. You know what I mean? But for a guy that's been in the UFC for, I don't know what, over a decade, and fought who's, the killers, it's not bad. And yeah, he's a guy that's been around for so long. He's so tough. He's so skilled, durable. He's got his personality is so opposite of what they're usually accustomed to that it creates like such a following. And yeah, man, I'm happy to see it. I love the Diaz brothers. Like, the thing I'm most excited for is to see Nick Diaz fight again, because they're saying he's gonna fight this year, and I'm I like Nate, but Nick, I was always, I like Nick a lot more. Just watching him fight, dude, just, that I love it. But yeah, to see if he comes back, I'm be so stoked.
Well, they showed Nick on camera, and he got as well a thunderous ovation. And I'm with you. If he looks in fantastic shape, he seems like he actually has the mindset of wanting to fight, where before he was kind of just enjoying the Vegas lifestyle and kind of soaking his rewards of fighting and being suspended. And it kind of helps as well that USADA, who's partnered with the UFC, they're no longer penalizing you if you get test positive for marijuana. So that's a win right there, which I think all commissions should now work with USADA and get rid of that marijuana as a heavy suspension, because, I mean, we lost Nick Diaz for 5 freaking years for marijuana, which is insane.
Nick Diaz gets 5 years for weed, and TJ Dillashaw gets 2 years for EPO.
Yeah, exactly. Where those things should be much more strict. But yeah, I want to see Nick. I want to see Nate again. And just God bless the Diaz brothers, because MMA needs people like that in the sport right now. But for Leon now, he's going to have to sit and wait, because freaking we know it's Colby again. And I don't know. It's like, if you're Leon, do you want to take a fight? Because you've been off for almost 3 years.
I mean, you do, because you want to get paid, but do you want to risk losing that number 1 spot or number 2 spot, I guess? But who do you fight? You got Chiesa is fighting Luque, and you have Burns fighting Wonderboy. And
exactly.
Colby and Usman. So there's really, I don't know who else you would fight that is, other than the Diaz fight. That's a big name, but other than that, there's nobody unless you fight Nick.
Yeah. Well, hey, if Nick's available and you can go for the Diaz clean sweep, there's nothing wrong with that, but I just don't see that being an option. So, yeah, I think if you're Leon, you kind of wait and see what else happens.
I vote Nick, and if Nick, whoever wins gets the title shot.
Well, I think if you're Kamaru Usman, that's what you're hoping, that Nate Diaz found a way to get the finish, because then he just leapfrogs everyone on star power, and then you have the biggest name you've ever faced defending your title against.
Yeah, and that, I mean, Usman would just, I think, murder Nate.
I think so too.
And I think, I don't know. I guess he's bigger, but I like to see Nate at 55 instead, man. These guys are too big for him.
I agree. I always thought 55 was the best weight class for Nate, but maybe he's just at the point where he's just tired of cutting the weight and kind of.
And I mean, you can tell, like, they're like, obviously they want to win, but they don't give a fuck. Like, they're getting paid more than ever, and they're just having fun. They've been doing this shit forever, and you could tell, even when he tagged them in that last bit, there was no real urgency to go in for the kill. It was just more like, he pointed at him and laughed. You know what I mean? He was like, I don't care if I win. Look what I just did to you. I wobbled you. You know what I mean? Like, so that's their mentality, really, and that's cool. And sometimes it's probably a more dangerous mentality as a fighter than really trying too hard, right? So it's cool to see.
Well, Nate said at the post-fight press conference, like, because he got a bad cut, which they had to move that fight to this card. It was supposed to be on last month's, and then he said, "Yeah, I got cut. I pretty much stopped training. I really didn't care." I was like, I mean, this guy's just so honest, and that's why they're beloved, because people in this sport that are fans of it can spot a phony anywhere away. Yeah. The Diaz brothers have been this ever since they came into the realm of MMA, and people just can relate to them. They can just buy the authenticity, and that's how you become a superstar, is just be yourself, win fights, and just, don't be a gimmick. You're just you turned up to 10.
Yeah, really. I mean, that's my favorite, I guess, if you want to call it a gimmick, when people are just, you can tell that, there's some authenticity to what they're doing, instead of somebody that's really actually putting on a totally fake persona. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's why everybody loves the Diaz, just because they're so raw.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it'll be interesting to see when we get Nate back, and how long Leon has to wait to see when he gets back. But Josh, the first fight on the main card, on the pay-per-view, Paul Craig, Jamal Hill. How does a ref not notice a man's dislocated his arm when it's right in front of you?
The guy looked like he was 80 years old, and probably shouldn't have been reffing still, to be honest. I don't know. But yeah, that was bad, man. That was nasty. I didn't actually see it at first until until his arm was kind of like dangling, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I was like, oh shit, dude, his arm is bad. But then seen the replay and it was like twisted backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, they somebody told me that they put up like it's his arm's actually all right.
It was just dislocated. It wasn't broken. It was just dislocated, and they just popped it back backstage, and he was good to go.
That's crazy because like I thought for sure that there would be mad ligament and tendon like damage for sure when that happens, but I don't know, like that's crazy. Good, but
It's great for Jamal Hill because one, obviously, you can get a fight soon enough instead of after a broken arm or serious ligament damage. Two, he got to go out and hang out with Paul Craig after the fact and get really drunk, which I think that would help ease the pain a little bit as well.
of course, you know, it's always fun to go out and well, after any fight is great, but you know, especially even when your opponent have some beers afterwards, it's awesome. I've done that many times.
Well, and they were definitely some of the pictures I saw. They looked like they had a lot of fun out there in Arizona after the fact. But yeah, like I guess this brings to the point. This referee, who you said looked 80 years old, and he does, but a local ref from Arizona gets a shot on the big stage, and like, do we continue that trend? Because every time we have those local refs, something bad always happens on like these bigger UFC shows.
Yeah, I just think it's probably due to lack of experience, lack of activity. You know, they don't do it often. So it's always, I think it's just, I know it's all commission based, right? But like, yeah, like you should have a set core group of refs that you can pull from, like a set 20 refs or whatever the number is that do it consistently, that are trained, that are proven, and that you can rely on and use them. You know, you only need what, like 4 or 5 per show, and they rotate throughout the card.
Yeah.
Usually that's how it is. So yeah, I mean, but the commissions always have their own thing, and every state or province you go to, it's you know, their own bullshit. So it's always tough to deal with.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think obviously some of the best refs that are in the sport were on that card. Like Mark Goddard was there. We had Herb Dean as well. Like maybe we could have had more Jason Herzog or something like that in there, because I think those are some of the best.
And what's the big boy's name with the beard, the Viking?
Oh yeah, and he was there as well. Mike Beltran.
Beltran, yeah. He's good too. Yeah,
He's one of the best. He was there in the Moreno fight. So I mean, they had some quality refs. It's just unfortunate there, but luckily Jamal Hill is okay. But yeah, if you see a man's arm dangling and you're a supposed Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, you think you know when to stop the fight when it's right in front of you.
You would think, man. Yeah, the referee it's a shitty job because you never get praised really for it when you do something you're supposed to or good, but you always get shit on if you do something bad, right? So it's a tough spot. But yeah, it should be like really, you know, qualified people doing this important role.
Absolutely. Last thing I want to talk to you about this card, Josh. Obviously, I think there were some good fights. It was nice to see Terrence McKinney get a 7-second knockout. Did
that guy not get a bonus?
He did. So they didn't give it to him on the paper, but they said they'd take care of him, because how do you not give a 7-second debut against Matt Favola a bonus? And especially that is Terrence McKinney's third finish in 2021 under 30 seconds.
Wow.
So
good on him. Did they give him a $50,000 bonus?
They did. Yes. Or they said they would give him $50,000 as well. So that's good to see. Also, hopefully, good thing Terrence McKinney's okay, but fighters, please stop jumping off the cage and nearly destroying your knees and stuff like that. That is like the one thing I get now afraid of after a big knockout. Obviously, the adrenaline's going, but your limbs, your ankles, your knees, please take care of them.
Yeah, you know, like I've jumped on cages before and like, you know, did the whole flex thing, and you know, you're in the moment and it's cool. But I would never attempt to do the Gaethje, do the Chandler, and do the backflip off it or anything like that, just because I'd be the guy that lands on my neck and I'm freaking paralyzed celebrating a win. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, actually watching it after, he didn't really do a whole lot. He just kind of jumped down, and just the way he landed is kind of like you'd see like buckled his knee and like, oh shit. So that, I mean, it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, well, Josh, next time if you get a win and you go up in the cage, gently, just gingerly climb down, like you would show your daughter how to climb up a jungle gym, up and down, gingerly.
Yeah, except she jumps right off. She has no fear. You know what I mean? But yeah, did they say what happened to his knee? Or
He said he was fine. I guess it was just a little nerve thing or something. He stretched it back out and he was okay. But I'm like, oh my God, this man tore his ACL after a 7-second last minute replacement debut. And especially an amazing story that he has, being OD'd and coming back to life, not once, but twice. And then now this run he's been on in 2021 with, 3 now under 30-second finishes and just having that moment in the UFC, it was great. And I was like, oh my God, but thankfully he's okay. As well, last thing on this card, Josh, the fans in Arizona. So much booing when the fights went to the ground. It was like a 2005 or 2006 MMA show. I understand we've been locked up for a long time and haven't been out in public with a lot of people, but did Arizona forget how MMA works?
I guess, man. I mean, yeah, you get that. Well, not everywhere, but like a lot of places. And it just, what I don't understand why people do that. Like it is, if you want to watch just striking, like watch kickboxing, go watch Glory. You know what I mean? Like, shouldn't that be your main thing to go watch? Because like all you want to do is see people strike, and you're gonna see the best strikers ever do it, or boxing. But yeah, and then they come to MMA, and then somebody gets a takedown, and it's a boo instantly. It's like that this is part of it, right? Like this is the other half of the sport is on the ground. So I mean, to me, it never made sense. That's why when I like going to events are they're fun, but yeah, I hate when that happens there, and then going to bars and watching it and people are just talk shit right when it hits the mat. I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, it's annoying.
But it was like every fight had a moment on the ground. It was boo. Like this is the sport. This is literally what you paid your money to see. That'd be like going and watching a movie and be upset you watched a movie.
Yeah, or going to a tennis match and booing when they hit the ball, like what I mean. Like it's part of it. It's it's what they're supposed to do. What I mean, they're not all just gonna sit and just swing for the fences. I mean, that's what a lot of people want. Not everybody. If you go to Japan, what I mean, totally different story, right? Like they're like every little intricate move, like they'll clap for. What I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like quiet in there. It's a totally different atmosphere than the North American.
Oh, that was also the other thing was there was a Ryzen like later that night, and the first fight had a takedown, and there was like I was like I like this crowd a lot better. They just respect everything you do. There's no booing. They sit in silence and appreciate when something nice happens. They clap.
Just more educated, right? So a lot of those people, they grew up training in different martial arts. That's kind of their culture, right? So first they would never boo to that, and they understand it more, so they see the intricacies and the discipline and the technicality, like the technical aspects that are happening. So they're much more just overall educated, and they just appreciate the sport more.
Plus, they're just a culture based on respect. Like any sport you watch from Japan or anything like that, they sit there and they respect you. There's no booing. There's no nothing. And then you cut to North America where NBA games now we have fans that have been locked up just running on the court like they forgot how to act. So shout out to Japan and their culture. Lovely. It was also cool to see Ryzen back in Japan. I don't know if you saw any of it, but back at the Tokyo Dome, though, Josh, it was super cool to see. So for the first time since like 2003 when Pride had an event there. So it was really cool to see how they do. And I mean, it's Ryzen. They put on a great show and kicked off their bantamweight tournament. And then they have another show in 2 weeks where the other half of the bantamweight tournament will get underway. So nice to see Ryzen getting back going as well. But the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, Josh, is we talked about it last week. Claressa Shields, she made her MMA debut for PFL. I mean, obviously, you're not going to be an amazing person at stopping a takedown, especially someone with the high level of her opponent in the jiu-jitsu game, like a brown belt that Brittany Elkin was. But, I mean, she got it done, saved herself, saved the PFL as well, getting that third-round finish. But all the hopes I think everyone had for Kayla Harrison and Claressa Shields right away, there's no way that can happen. That's like 5 years down the line.
They're them fighting each other?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I didn't get to see the fight. I saw a few fights on it, but yeah, I've seen the highlights after, and I mean, yeah, like I said, I talked to you before about it. Like, I'm not. It doesn't really pique my interest that much. I know she's coming from boxing, but again, I didn't follow women's boxing. Like, no disrespect, I just didn't really watch it, so I didn't know who she was. And I'm sure that they're trying to build up, a former one of the best women boxers, coming to our sport, and you know, um, good on them. But yeah, and her to fight Kayla Harrison, man. First, this is at 45, wasn't it?
Well, yeah,
Clarissa?
I think it was 155
Oh, was
actually.
it 55? Okay. So they'll be the same weight class. But yeah, there's no way she's going to stop her takedown. And then, what I mean? She would need 10 years of training to be able to catch up to the level of Harrison. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So I think the PFL in a way got some humble pie, though she did get the finish. She
Yeah.
did, prove something. And like her striking is out of this world, obviously coming from the boxing background. Like the power that she has in those little 4-ounce gloves is just unbelievable. Like she tagged Elkin a couple times on the feet that Brittany instantly had to go in for the takedown. And then those hammer fists were nasty. So it's still a work in progress for Claressa Shields. I mean, it's going to be, she says she wants an MMA fight again in another 2 to 3 months. Still has some boxing obligations as well later this year. So at least PFL survived that scare.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been their golden horse getting put down in the first round. So I'm sure they're happy, right?
But the PFL, though, they continued their tournament, featherweights, lightweights. Tyler Diamond and Brendan Loughnane had a sensational fight.
Yeah, man, my boy Tyler, I knew this was going to be a super tough fight for him, but I know Tyler's good, he's durable, tough, but yeah, I knew this one would be, you have to dig deep to get this win, but man, showed a lot of toughness and heart, like what she has, and kept coming, and I lost count, but I think he got dropped like 7 times in that fight, maybe, around there, maybe more. Um, and I think that Lachlan got tired from actually trying to finish him and being unable to, and that made the fight more exciting and turned things for Tyler to have some successful moments. So, yeah, it was a crazy war, and yeah, very very entertaining.
Best fight the PFL's had this year is that fight.
Yeah,
A lot of coming out of it. Like Tyler Diamond is like really building himself up and gaining his stock. Like I don't know if he's gonna miss out on the playoffs. I believe right now he is.
I think he is. Yeah.
Yeah, especially with like Lance Palmer having a fight coming up at the in 2 weeks time at PFL 6. But he's really elevating his stock. Where for next year PFL has to bring him back because he's just fought so well for them. Or now being a free agent like a Bellator or UFC are going to have to look at potentially bringing him back. And two, Brendan Loughnane is proving that if you wrestle 10 seconds left in your fight in the contender series and don't get picked, you will make the UFC pay and regret that decision.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this guy, he's good, man. He's very good. He shows great striking, great wrestling. Good grappling skills, tough, durable. Good cardio. Yeah, he's the real deal for sure. Very good. He's a problem for anybody in that tournament.
Would you say he's the favorite to win at 145? I think so.
I would say, especially obviously Lance is a friend, so I pick Lance, but Lance had a tough start with the Bubba fights, but I mean I think Lance to be able to get in the playoffs, I think he needs a finish. I think.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure 100%. Like he needs a finish, and it might even be in the first or second round. Um, I think I'm not 100% on that, but yeah. And he's got a tough fight too against that Russian guy. So I would say, yeah, Brendan definitely is a favorite, and I would say probably a close second would be that Bubba Jenkins.
Yeah, Jenkins right now he like cruised into the playoffs after getting the big win against Palmer, and then really just getting a last minute replacement, and that's tough for anyone like Bobby Moffett had. And then you just use your wrestling control and do whatever you want.
Too, what the hell is his name? Wade.
Oh, Chris Wade, yeah, great knockout.
Yeah, he's up there too. So they got some good guys, man, in that season, man.
Yeah, and we were supposed to get Anthony Pettis, but he fell ill the day before the weigh-in, so he's now also on the PFL 6 card in 2 weeks' time on January 25th, where Bellator and PFL will go head-to-head for the first time, which is actually going to be interesting night in MMA. Yeah, with the interim heavyweight title fight.
Friday?
Yeah, it's one of the rare Friday PFL cards in 2 weeks.
Nice, yeah.
So
that'd be cool. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Well, that will, I believe, as well as the women's and heavyweights plus the one featherweight and the one lightweight fight with Pettis. So, have to see how they work that out. But I mean, they're getting towards the playoffs, and like I said, I mean, they're going to Hollywood, Florida. They'll have fans back, and it'll kind of change the atmosphere as well for the playoffs. So I'm excited for that. But lastly, Josh, I mean, Bellator, they had themselves a show. Fans were back at Unkinsville, as we talked about. Limited, but they did have.
It was good to hear some cheers for sure.
It definitely was. It was also kind of nice on the prelims where we had Morrow and Josh Thompson call the card. I kind of like that duo.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I'm a fan of all those guys, man. So you match them up whatever way. But yeah, I did like that.
I mean, the main event on Bellator, and Big John then came and called the main card, but main event. Yeah. Welterweight title on the line. Douglas Lima against Yaroslav Amosov. And Amosov 26-0 and really just had his way with Douglas Lima. And I think what we've learned from that performance and Lima's performance against Ben Askren back in 2012, if you have a great ability to wrestle and use it well, Lima's going to have some trouble with you.
Yeah, I mean, a 2012 fight, of course, that's what he had trouble with. But 8 or 9 years later, that's a totally different fighter. But you're right. Amosov, his wrestling was the key here. I going into the fight, I thought he'd have trouble with this guy. I still thought Lima was able to probably get it done. Maybe after losing a round or two, being kind of grinded, taken down. But it didn't look like Lima that we have seen before. It looked like he didn't have a sense of urgency really. He got taken down and whatever, but he didn't. He just kind of closed up his guard, and there was no real sweep attempts. There was not a lot of submission attempts. There was not a lot of heavy ground and pound from the bottom just to kind of create some different scrambles. And I just kind of accepted it, and that was the story of the fight, to be honest. Good on Amosov. 26-0. I mean, there's only one other Russian that has a record like that. Khabib, who retired at 20, did he get to 30 or 29?
29.
29. So yeah, and he could definitely, you can push him. I mean, yeah, he isn't from Russia. He's from
Ukraine. He's the first ever Ukrainian champion in a major promotion.
So that's pretty cool too, to see that. So yeah, that's a big turn there, because Lima was definitely a big marketable guy, known as one of the best welterweights in the world. So yeah, that's a big win, huge win.
It's a big win. You probably give Yaroslav Amosov MVP next. I mean, MVP was on the desk broadcasting, and it does present an interesting stylistic matchup. I mean, if MVP can find a way to stuff the takedowns and just how he strikes from those weird angles, kind of makes it a little bit interesting. And it's the fight that makes the most sense, honestly. You can't go back to Lima after that performance, so kind of has to be Amosov and MVP down the line.
Probably, and yeah, that's like a striker grappler, striker wrestler in that one for sure. We'll see if MVP can kind of use his lanky and awkward style to kind of time that knockout. That's what he'd be looking for, but that would be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. The only other real highlight on that Bellator card was Aaron Pico. Aaron Pico looked the best he's ever looked in MMA. And I thought it was kind of funny. He got up and was like, "Sorry for my performance." I'm like, dude, you looked amazing. You finally figured out MMA. You finally figured out how to mix up your striking with your takedowns and then your jiu-jitsu. Like, that Aaron Pico is a problem for anyone at 145 in Bellator.
Anyone at 145 in the world,
Yeah.
I mean? That just the way he was able to, I mean, the guy he wrestled, forever. His whole life, his wrestling's top notch, and then was a Golden Gloves boxer, like very, very great boxing. And then so to bring that now, and a great athlete, so bring all that together, learn to mesh it together into mixed martial arts. Because I don't care what anybody says, like, you can be the greatest at this and that and this and that, but if you don't blend them together, it doesn't work as well. It'll only work here and there. It won't, he won't be a top champion for sure. So to see him do that, man, he looked fabulous. I mean, the striking, his wrestling, his entries, his takedowns, his timing, and his relentless pressure, and then his sub. Like very, very impressive. And I think you'll see him fight for the title. I'd say, if not this year, definitely next.
Yeah, I mean, he fought a pretty solid striker in Aiden Lee coming in from the UK. Was able to get the takedowns. You said we kept looking for that rear naked choke, couldn't get it in the first or second, but finally sunk it in the third. And yeah, he's clearly
anaconda choke. Wasn't it anaconda choke?
I think it was a rear naked. No, it wasn't anaconda. You are correct. It was. There was a couple of those on the card where we couldn't determine was it a anaconda or a Darce choke. That was the debate for a couple of them. But yeah, I mean, Pico he's fantastic, and yeah, he's definitely living up to the hype that Bellator has. And really, for him, it's proving it's not about the destination; it's about the journey. As we've seen him have his ups, his downs, but now he seems like he's really figured out MMA.
Yeah, I mean, his first ever fight, there was so much hype, and he got caught in a guillotine like minute in or whatever, even less. And then he started a couple of them. I mean, I remember the Corrales one. He started, he was tag Corrales on her when he started brawling with her, and then got knocked out.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another one. I think he got hit with flying knee or something like that. But yeah, that's who it was. It was who he called out after Borix, right?
Adam
I'm
Borix down for that.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. That could, I think, 100% be a #1 contender fight after whoever that could fight the winner of Pitbull and McKee.
Yeah, Borix or JJ Wilson are the only people I want to see. Yeah. I only want to see Pico fight next because those are like some top prospects that are now at the same level pretty much. And yeah, and speaking of McKee and Pitbull, seems like Bellator is going to have that July 31st, I believe. July 31st or end of July. And they're finally leaving Unkinsville, Josh. They're going
Angeles,
to
right?
Los Angeles. They're probably going to the Forum, more likely.
Nice.
So if that's got to give you a lot of hope. First of all, seeing that like finally they're leaving Connecticut.
Finally, I'm eventually going to go somewhere that's not Connecticut, or I'll probably end up I'll get stuck on the Oklahoma, something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Mohegan Sun. It's actually a very nice, beautiful resort, but yeah, I don't want to go back there. I want to go somewhere different.
The Forum would be cool.
Forum would be cool. I'd definitely be into that for sure.
I mean, that's where Magic Johnson.
They just announced Stotts actually.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I seen that last night. Fighting Magomedov. So I figured they'd probably give Stotts either Magomedov or maybe Patty Mix. Maybe that's what I was thinking. One of the two. So the Magomedov one makes sense. That's I think it's got to be an #1 contender fight now for sure. That's a good fight. Really, really good one.
Yeah, that's 18-1 versus 16-1. So definitely has to be a #1 contender fight. And I mean, if Stotts wins, then there's the interesting scenario of fighting your teammate for the title.
Yeah, I mean, do you do it? Like, yeah, it's like it kind of just depends on money and the chance to and I guess like he's got to have that talk with Pettis and just kind of see like, I wouldn't fight my teammate for nothing. But if it was for a world title and we're both gonna make a beating here that could change our life, then let's just agree to it and be friends after. But I mean, it all depends on their situation.
Absolutely, for sure. So I mean, there's that fight. I mean, and Bellator, as you said, they pay well, and I think that also leaves the option that hey, maybe you will get the Irish guy whose name now escapes me.
Gallagher.
Yeah, you'll maybe get Gallagher now.
I mean, who knows, man? Maybe like, I mean, he was supposed to fight Mix on the card, and so they might rebook that one. You know what I mean? I might just kind of try to run that one back. So who knows? I haven't heard anything yet. I'm just kind of hanging out, and if I could get Gallagher, that'd be great. That's a great matchup that I would definitely want for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the other piece of news that's really happened is Alistair Overeem's going back to kickboxing, which I think is better for him than any MMA promotion.
Yeah, that's cool. Kind of going back to his roots. Kind of going full circle, really. That's where you kind of started, and then you're going to end up back there and probably finish your career there, I would imagine, right? So
yeah,
it's cool. And glory, right?
Yeah, with Glory. So he makes his debut for them. No date yet, but I mean, hey, you know what? You want to make a splash? Glory does, especially in Europe again, as Glory's had some, I guess, financial issues due to the pandemic and whatnot. But that'll help.
Even before the pandemic, they did.
Yeah, but I think the pandemic really hurt that even more so, as with many people. But it's great to see Overeem back. And I guess before we go, Josh, there's some big Canadians having some fights this weekend. Jesse Arnett taking on Ray Borg in the main event at UAE Warriors 20 this Sunday morning. So, I mean,
what time is it on at? Do you know?
Probably like normal time, like 7-ish. I have to double check that.
Like 7 a.m. It'll start?
Yeah. Okay. They do start pretty at a solid time. So time difference isn't that bad.
Yeah, I want to watch that, man. I'm pumped to see Jesse. It's a big fight, huge fight for him, and Borg's obviously no joke, very good. But I think it's a winnable fight for him. I think he can definitely out wrestle Borg. He's the bigger, longer guy. He'll definitely be bigger. Jesse's a big bantamweight, and Borg is the guy that fought at flyweight. So I'm assuming he's not going to be that big. I could see him maybe catching him something on the ground. I think the biggest thing is just Jesse got to stay defensively sound on the feet. Just not get wild, not get tagged with anything, and you could definitely have some success.
I think Jesse will have a lot of success. Like his last fight, maybe he went over to Abu Dhabi a little too early. I don't know. I mean, obviously you want to go over to there and kind of get accumulated to everything, but I just felt like he couldn't pull the trigger in his last fight. But his fight before that with the Toro promotion, where he fought in Florida, like he looked so aggressive. He knocked his opponent down a couple times, didn't get the finish, but like that's the Jesse Arnett that I remember and was expecting when he fought you. Obviously, he got caught in that fight, but that's the Jesse Arnett I expect. I mean, and Borg hasn't fought in a while, where Jesse's been pretty active during the pandemic. So this is really, to me, like the biggest if Jesse wants to make a splash at a shot at the UFC or a shot at Bellator, this is the fight. And UAE Warriors has a lot of guys that have been signed to the UFC this year already.
Yeah, I mean, and not only that, like they put on good shows, but they also pay. They also pay decent, right? It's not just like he's fighting for some local show here against a bigger name. He's fighting there, out in Abu Dhabi. Is it Abu Dhabi? He's in Abu Dhabi, right?
Abu Dhabi, yeah.
And yeah, they have money, right? So
do they ever?
Their paychecks are actually pretty good. So good on him. It'd be a huge win though for him. And I think it's whoever wins this is going to fight the guy that's got the belt out there. I believe that's what they said.
Yeah, the guy that just beat Aloui, who I forget his name, but did
Brazilian, I think.
Yeah, who looked fantastic against Aloui. We were supposed to also get the return of Anthony the Genius Romero, but unfortunately his opponent pulled out. He was supposed to fight Sunday afternoon for Fury FC on Fight Pass, but his opponent pulled out, and obviously not enough time to get an opponent, especially for title fights. So we won't get to see Anthony fight again. But I mean, that was a big opportunity on Fight Pass for a pretty solid promotion in Fury FC, and I know he switched managements, and so they're looking out for him already.
Is Fury FC CFFC? Is that the same?
No, it is not. So CFFC is based in the eastern part of the United States, the Philadelphia area, whereas Fury FC is based in Texas.
Oh, okay. I just thought that because it was Cage Fury Fighting Championship, right? So I just thought it was just short form Fury Fighting.
No.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that sucks. Obviously I want to see Romero fight and win and do well. But I mean, I think it's just a little time. It'll push it back a month or two. He'll get another fight soon. So it sucks, but
It does, and it seems like his management's already on it to try to get him another fight and another opportunity. But unfortunate. Was really excited. Kind of opportunity that came out of nowhere, but it was nice to see his name get back out there because he was last season's Brendan Loughnane on the Contender Series. Absolutely robbed of getting a contract in the Contender Series.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I've voiced my opinion on that one. I think a win in one of those shows like that, especially a good win where it looks good. I think he could definitely be signed to any one of the major organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Josh, that'll wind things down while you look like you're ready to wind down in cottage country. Also notice, is that a Vancouver Grizzlies hat?
It is. Look at this bad boy. Out of the archive, eh?
Yeah, shout out to
Yeah.
Brian Big Country Reeves, Sharif Abdul Rahim, and that's pretty much all the Vancouver Grizzlies I can name you.
Yeah. I could name another one.
They were
Some of
unfortunately
the
never
Sabres-
took off like the Raptors, but amazing
Yeah.
color scheme.
They went to Memphis, right?
Yes.
Memphis? Yes. Yeah, that's pretty much all I know about it. But I found this hat and I was like, oh, that's a cool hat. And
When we were in
that's
Vancouver, we apparently lived by a place that sold some Grizzlies gear,
Oh.
or stayed at a hotel. And I really wanted a Sharif Abdul Rahim Grizzlies jersey. Also, Mike Bibby. Remember Mike Bibby?
I remember that. Yeah, I remember Mike
So,
Bibby.
of the three greatest Grizzlies of all time for their many losing seasons out there in Vancouver before
Kinda
heading
like
into
the Expos, kind of like that, you know.
At least the Expos made the playoffs.
Yeah.
The Grizzlies never did that. But Josh, before we go, always plug yourself out there on your Instagram, where we see many great memes of yourself.
That gentleman Jay Hill, as always.
All right, Josh. Well, enjoy the time there in cottage country. Enjoy the nice weather. Enjoy the beach.
Yeah, we'll do, man.
All right. Well, we're back, same bat time, same bat channel next week to break down all the happenings in the realm of mixed martial arts. So until then, peace out. Have a good one, everyone.